Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to Trail Talk. We almost had like a really great announcement going on, but anyway, sorry you guys missed that. We are so glad you could join us today. We are live at the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center in Duncan, Oklahoma, and we are to be continuing our lesson on Oklahoma State symbols and emblems. We have some really fun lessons going today, our topics, emblems, symbols, whatever. Anyway, and they're all a little bit connected. I thought that this was kind of fun how they all flow together. So we're just going to jump right in here and start, first of all, talking about the percussive musical instrument. Now, if you were going to guess what that might be, I'm sure you would all say drums, and you would be correct. In 1993, it was designated that the drum, designated and adopted the drum as the percussive musical instrument of the state of Oklahoma. According to the Oklahoma Historical Society, drums are a vital part of many types of music in Oklahoma. And you know, we have a diverse musical history, and even today a lot of different types of music are very popular here, ranging from Native American ceremonial rhythms to country, folk, jazz, and rock music. And I mean, every type of music, there's a drum. Percussion instruments are played by being struck, shaken, rubbed, or scraped. That's where they get the name percussive. And they are perhaps the oldest form of musical instruments, rivaled only by voices. People have been pounding out a beat to a song for, you know, as long as people have recorded this sort of thing. They play not only rhythm, but also melody and harmony, and percussion could also be the only category of instruments that has musical notation. This is in all three of the traditional cliffs. I looked it up to see what the three I was familiar with, treble and clef. I mean, no, is that right? No, treble and oh, anyway, I just went blank, but there were four. And so I'm not 100% sure what that is referring to. Anyway, for centuries, the heartbeat of Native American culture has resonated through the beat of the drum. Various Native American tribes have different traditions regarding the drum, but in all, it remains one of the most important and highly regarded instruments. A man named Rusty Kozad, a Kiowa veteran, was quoted saying, it's more than just the music it produced. It's an honor to sit down and play the drum, and it means, and what it means to those hearing the beat it produces. So this is sometimes there's like one big drum in a circle where a lot of people are playing it, like this picture represents. And maybe you've been to a Native American gathering, a powwow, or you know, a festival where there were Native American dancers and they were playing a drum like this. A lot of times there's microphones. These drummers would be sitting on the ground. Now, to my knowledge, I've never seen anything or read where there is, sorry about that, y'all. Or read where there are women who play the drums and or sing along. So I'm not 100% sure. If someone watching knows that how that works, let me know. This woman seems to be singing, but she's not in the drum circle. It helps, these drums help Native American. I'm kind of chasing the Native American slant of the percussive instrument of the drums, because I just feel like that's a big part of Oklahoma's history, and a part that is not as maybe well known or broadcast, you know, about how the drums, the role they play in Native American culture. They were a way for Native Americans to stay in touch with their people and connect with the spiritual world. Tribes believe the sound compares to a human's heartbeat and resembles the heartbeat of Mother Earth. The rhythm created from your drum is the foundation of song and prayer. And a lot of Native American songs are actually prayers or songs to one of the spirits of one of a sacred animal or Mother Earth, something like that. And the drums are, depending on the tribe, drums may be handheld, they may be you know, taller, long, or bigger around, larger circumference, smaller, but they are all, you know, the basic beat to the music. And I'll tell you, I have a friend who was a ladies buckskin champion dancer, and she competed in a Darko at the American Indian Exposition and everything. And we would like drive around in her car in our lunch break. I worked with her in Oklahoma City, and she had a cassette tape. It's been a while, okay, of these different songs, and they had names like, most of them referred to different animals, the beaver song, the bear song, like that, deer song. And the songs were, the only instrument in the song was a drum pounding out the beat and a voice singing in the native language. She was Cherokee. And to my untrained ear, the songs all sounded the same. She, of course, had grown up listening to this music and knew the difference because she was practicing for the dancing, and she needed to know when the songs ended because of a way they judged the buckskin dance. Anyway, it's just a huge part of Native American lives. And if you've never heard, I would encourage you to look up on YouTube or go experience firsthand a Native American gathering where they're playing the drums. All right, the musical instrument is the fiddle. And it was a 1984 resolution that designated the fiddle as the official state instrument because it is a symbol of the exceptional musical heritage of the state and enjoyed by its citizens. So it is kind of interesting. I wasn't really aware of this, but fiddling arrived in Indian Territory during the 1830s and 40s when the forced removal of the 5 civilized tribes happened. Many of people in those tribes, they were intermarried with white people. Some were intermarried with African American people, and all those cultures together had some sort of fiddle music that was a part of their lives, their history, their ancestry. By the time of the Civil War, the fiddle was the most popular instrument it was Indian Territory at that time. Later 19th century local fiddlers received inspiration from musicians and traveling shows from the eastern states. That would be post-Civil War. And the old-time fiddler was regarded as an asset to a community, providing music for celebrations and for dances, one of which we're going to be talking about in a minute. And most of them played by ear. They weren't really trained to play the music and, look at sheet music. I mean, honestly, in those years, having an education was something that not every person had the opportunity to gain. And to be able to read music would definitely require some kind of educational training. So the fact that they could just pick up a fiddle, which I think is kind of a hard instrument to learn to play, and they could play it and play songs that were recognized by the general public. So early fiddle music came almost entirely from the British Isles. Other European influences occurred as Oklahoma's population became more diverse. The land runs and different industries and things popping up in the state brought people from around the world. Styles of fiddling were clearly associated with Indian populations and other regional influences and were often identified as Ozark, Cherokee, or Creek fiddle dance. So maybe in addition to the drums, there was some fiddling, some fiddle music being played along with some of those. I've never seen or heard that, but by the late 1800s, contest fiddlers were common, performing very complex or stylized versions of traditional tunes or original tunes. So I wanted to show you this picture. This is a violin, this is a fiddle. Now, I think they are almost identical. They look very similar to me. Slight differences are on the whether the instrument is flat or more bowed, which is something you can't see from this angle. And then also these rests right here. I'm sure you've seen a violin player, they put their chin there, you know, and play like that, where a fiddle player plays more like this. They rest it on their chest or their upper arm. And so fiddling is a little more of a relaxed movement than, you know, your classical violinist. I'm sure my form is terrible because I'm not trained in either one, but I'm just to kind of give you an idea. There are slight differences, but I'm going to bet that a violinist or a fiddler could switch out instruments and make really great music on either one if there was a slight difference. So in the early 1900s, West Texas or Panhandle styles inspired musicians such as Bob Wills. Now he's from Texas, but a man described as the fiddler's fiddle, the fiddler's fiddler is a man named Keith Coleman, who's actually from my hometown. We have a park named for him. He passed away many years ago, but he played fiddle with Bob Wills and was quite well known. He played for Ray Price and some other very famous country music stars. But he kind of dipped his toe in, much like fiddlers of those years, in swing and jazz style music. So not just your basic country. If you think about Bob Wills music, that's dance music. You know, that's a fast moving, stringed instrument led sound, and just that was the type of music that became everyone was playing. That's what kind of music people were playing in the early 1900s. A notable swing jazz player named Claude Fiddler Williams began his musical career in the 1920s in a black string band from Muskogee. And Oklahoma's first fiddle recording appeared on the Victor label in 1922, very early on. In the late 20s, Oklahoma had many fiddlers playing in ensembles of fiddle, banjo, mandolin, and guitar. Now, if that sounds like maybe a bluegrass, that's what we would call it today. That makes me think of a bluegrass band. Like Cindy Parks, she's been on here a few times. Her family, they play bluegrass music, and those are the same instruments. Then fiddling was incorporated into rural dance bands, medicine shows, minstrel shows, and by the 50s, Oklahoma's fiddling had faded in popularity and was really limited to the Bob Wills sound. So it was like, oh, the old way of playing music. But there are, in the 1960s, there was a kind of a resurgence of fiddle music, and a man named Byron Berline popularized it. He was a part of that music scene, and he and his band came here to Duncan, I'm going to say maybe 2019, 2018. I don't know. It was a few years ago. He passed away in 2021, so it was prior to that. But they played a lot of different music, and a friend of mine who is she still lives in my hometown, she was at that event and had her dad's fiddle, and someone who was playing in Byron Berline's band played Keith Coleman's fiddle. And so it was like a whole big, really awesome moment that night. But Byron Berline, probably one of the best known of recent times, fiddle players from Oklahoma. Also, someone named Herman Johnson and Buster Grass. I'm not really familiar with those names, but they have been well known in the fiddle playing crowd. And there are, associations and all kinds of places to kind of help promote fiddle music and help people improve with that. But Oklahoma's state musical instrument, the fiddle. And now when you watch someone play, I think you're going to pay attention to how they hold their instrument a little bit differently than if they were playing a more classical trained musical score kind of violin music. Okay, and that leads us to our state dance or our state folk dance, which is the square dance. Now, if you've never square danced, it is so much fun. It is one of the most fun dances I have ever done. I kind of like it because you have to listen to the person calling the dance. And so you have to know like the basic moves and be able to do them. And, everybody kind of takes their turns and you're in a circle with 8 people. And anyway, it's very fun. But it has been around for a long time. And in 1988, the resolution that made this our state folk dance stated, to show our appreciation for the colorful and exciting entertainment Oklahoma square dancers provide for all Oklahomans, we proudly proclaim the square dance as Oklahoma's official state folk dance. So Oklahoma's not like original in selecting square dance as a state symbol. 22 states have passed legislation to declare it as a state symbol. And more than 30 bills have been introduced beginning in 1965, proposing square dance as the national folk dance of the United States. Now, whether or not that has happened, I did not look that up, but so you could check that out for yourself. But it provided pioneers with recreation and social contact with neighbors, much like it still does today. But if you think about, like movies, TV, we've all seen a dance held, right? And it's almost always a square dance and somebody is calling. And years and years ago, I went to a family reunion, and for part of our fun, they had some square dancers from the nearby town. We were staying at this encampment place close by at a town, and square dancers from the town came out to the place where we were having this big reunion, like 2 nights in a row, and taught us square dance, the different moves, and then taught us all these fun dances. It was a great time. And of course, in school, everybody learns how to square dance. Do you remember the old brass wagon song? Promenade around the old brass wagon, promenade around, and then, skip to Maloo and all those fun songs that we grew up learning to dance. And those fond memories for me, I know for people who used to go and attend these dances as the most common social gathering of a small community in days when you took a horse and wagon to get there. I mean, just think about this dance form being around all of these years. So there are cultural traditions from European settlers, particularly, that was hard for me to say today, England, Ireland, Scotland, and France. They merged with influences of African American and Native American dance forms. And this unique blend formed during the colonial period of North America evolved through the centuries to become the tradition of square dance we recognize today. My mother-in-law even would talk to me about going to these dances on Saturday night in the small towns in Minnesota where she grew up, and how it was just the thing that you did. Families would load up and go. Young people would meet each other and spend time dancing and just having a really great time together. Square dancing over the years has absorbed local traditions and changes, leading to diverse styles of modern square dance we can see across the United States. Here's another one. This looks like, I mean, just some kind of very fun. The fella in the middle here is calling the dance, and it looks like they're doing, maybe they're doing the promenade, because it looks like they're walking and they're walking around in a counterclockwise. So this is a larger circle than what you typically have, but anyway, and then, you know, the kind of square dancing I always think about today is women in their really full skirts. They've got lots of little, what are those called, underneath, can kind of things underneath, and they spin and their skirts twirl around, and they have like these little shoes on, and they're doing their feet in little fast short steps. And the men might match. Have you seen where the men and women, the men have on like a checkered shirt, and the pleats of the woman's dress have that same checkered material, and there's like rickrack and things like that on her dress, and then he's got rickrack on his collar or the cuff of his sleeve, and maybe a bolo tie, I mean, or a ribbon tied in a bow up here and long. Just, I love these. And it seems like on TV, there used to be some square dancing you could catch sometimes. I can't think of what the show was, but anyway, this is the more modern look of square dance, and it's just a bright and colorful and just loads of fun, large gatherings. And it's the kind of dance that people of all ages could do together, and that makes it a really fun family thing. So I was going to say some of the different calls, like Alaman left, where dancers face their corner, which your partner's on your right, your corner's on your left, and they join left hands and walk around each other. And then there's the do-si-do, where you face each other in the circle and you go around without touching each other. You just make a little circle with your partner, around your partner. Promenade, where you go counterclockwise, and then swing, you know, you hook your elbows and spin around. And then you know how you'll grab hands and weave in and out and go around. Just, oh, so many fun steps, and it's pretty easy to learn all of it. And so I think this is just a super fun thing to have square dancing as our state folk dance, and just I don't know. It's a great form of exercise. It recognizes, acknowledges our state's history, and just a fun thing to do. I think maybe I need to find a square dance club and start square dancing. See if I can get my husband to go do that with me. I mean, could be a fun thing to do. All right, this leads us to our state song, Oklahoma. Say it with enthusiasm. There's an exclamation mark at the end of that word. Now, we have talked before about the story behind the story Oklahoma, the Broadway musical, the movie, and the source of our state song. When we were talking about our state's theater group, it was the Riggs Theater Players or something like that. But just to remind you, there was a stage play called Green Grow the Lilacs by Oklahoma native Lynn Riggs. His play was produced in New York in January 1931. It opened, it closed after only 64 performances, but it's set in 1900 rural Indian Territory, 7 years before statehood. The plot revolves around the conflict between ranchers and farmers. The farmer and the cowhand should be friends. Just a little lyric from the movie Oklahoma. And it plays itself out in a romantic triangle comprised of the cowboy Curly, the farm girl Lori, the hired hand Judd, and just kind of all the things that happen in the storyline. Well, in 1942, the theater Guild planned a musical adaptation of the play, first naming it Away We Go, and then later Oklahoma. And the script and lyrics were written by Oscar Hammerstein. The musical score was by Richard Rodgers. It was their very first collaboration, the first of many. And they changed the story slightly, but if you'll remember, Richard Rodgers was quoted saying he didn't change much of the story at all because of the way it was written so well by Lynn Riggs. There wasn't really much need to change. Anyway, so the Broadway audiences and theater critics accustomed to the standard musical formula were surprised by Oklahoma because it was a play with music. Rather than the customary show with a thin plot and a lot of songs, this was the first time song lyrics were used as a part of the actual telling of the story. And so it was kind of a breakthrough in that respect as well. Oscar Hammerstein said, Mr. Riggs' play is the wellspring of almost all that is good in Oklahoma. I kept many of the lines of the original play without making any changes in them at all for the simple reason they could not be improved upon. Critics often deemed this a musical, a folk opera. Well, in November 1946, the company performing Oklahoma came to Oklahoma for the first time and gave 8 performances. There was a big premiere with Governor Robert Kerr. We kind of talked about all this before. But there was a man, over the life of the production, there was a man from McAllister, Oklahoma named Ridge Bond. I wonder if that was his real name or his stage name. That kind of has a stage name ring to it, doesn't it? Ridge Bond. I mean, he could be. His parents could have picked that name. I'm just saying it. If it was, he was born to be a star. He graduated from the University of Tulsa, and he sang the role of Curly in 1,500 performances in New York over the and in the National Touring Company. So in 1955, MGM put Oklahoma on the screen, and the world premiere, which was held in New York, included a parade led by then Oklahoma Governor Raymond Gary, one of Oklahoma's most beloved governors from Medill, Oklahoma. As you drive through Medill, there is a cemetery that bears his name and some other things, but that's one of the biggest signs that you see. And in 1956, the film won Academy Awards for Best Musical Score and Best Sound Recording, and was nominated for Film Editing and Cinematography. But in April 1953, 2 years before the movie came out, Oklahoma State Representative George Nye of McAllister introduced the bill to replace Oklahoma's official song with the new song, the theme song for this production, Oklahoma. So, what was the original song? It was called Oklahoma, a Toast. So, in 1935, that song was chosen. It was written by Kingfisher native Harriet Parker Camden, and it was very reverent, and the lyrics described iconic images of Oklahoma, including sunflowers and fields and cotton. So this is a great story, little side story here. George Nye, the youngest legislator elected at the age of 23, he was a representative. He thought the song was too old-fashioned, and he remembered the first time he heard the song Oklahoma from the play, and thought it would be more cheerful and celebratory of the state. So in 1953, he introduces this bill, and there was one major opponent to the bill. He did not believe the state song should be written by a non-Oklahoman, and he sang Oklahoma, a Toast on the legislature floor and was overcome with emotion. So Representative Nye knew he had to act fast if he wanted to pass his bill. So he reached out. I believe maybe he's from McAllister as well as Ridge Bond. Anyway, He tabled the measure for one legislative day and called the representative from Chickasha, where the Oklahoma College for Women, now it's University of Science and Arts of Oklahoma, their chorus had just finished a production of the musical Oklahoma. And he also called Ridge Bond, who portrayed Curly, and Bond still had costumes from the musical and was asked to visit the legislature to perform some songs for the show with no chance to rehearse. Well, the next day, George Nye gave the floor to the women's choir. They began singing a couple of songs from this production, and suddenly Ridge Bond burst into the room and while he was singing Oklahoma, and everyone stood to cheer. And after the performance was finished, George Nye's bill passed and the state song was officially changed to Oklahoma. I'm just going to say, well played, future Governor Nye. Well played, Representative Nye. I love that you thought that out and you were so quick on your feet to pull all that together in just one day. But I want to just give a little bit of a nod to Oklahoma, a Toast, written from the heart by Miss Camden of Kingfisher, sung from the heart by the legislator who was just very passionate about keeping this song, Oklahoma's state song. This is just the chorus. Oklahoma, Oklahoma, fairest daughter of the West. Oklahoma, Oklahoma, 'tis the land I love the best. We have often sung her praises, but we have not told the half. So I give you Oklahoma, 'tis a toast we all can quaff. Not a word used very often today, but you get the gist of it. It's a beautiful and heartfelt song. So I have this cool picture of Ridge Bond right here, the women's chorus from USAO, or Oklahoma's College for Women, from the day they're at the state capitol. This is the day that Oklahoma was selected to be our state song. Now, there were some people who thought that maybe it was too hard to sing or too tough to teach school children, but I think we can all agree that, I mean, the first verse, you know, brand new state, brand's gonna be great. That one can be a little bit of a challenge, but the second verse, we all know. Oklahoma, I'm not singing it, don't get freaked out. Yeah. But I think we can all agree that it was definitely the right move to make. Now, one thing that the musical did was it changed people's perspective of the state of Oklahoma, because all they really knew in the early 50s was From the Grapes of Wrath, which was not our best moment. Oklahoma, I mean, honestly, we were struggling. The whole world was struggling, but we were doing double time with all the dust storms and all the devastation happening here. So we could use a little pick-me-up. And this musical came along at just the right time. So at Oklahoma's 25th, this is the play, 25th anniversary, and it was our state's, it was just after the state was 60 years old. It was in 1968. Governor Dewey Bartlett received a congratulatory telegram from Richard Rogers, the one who wrote the song, saying that it was remarkable that your state has made such an enviable record of progress in the 60 short years since statehood. I mean, I'm thinking that those were really positive words. But anyway, the show revived in 51, 79, and 2002, but a general consensus remains that the musical has done more to improve the state's public image than any other effort ever made. And so there you have it. You guys who are out there trying to change the image of Oklahoma or somehow improve our standing in history, or even today on, many different fronts. Forget about it. The musical Oklahoma has done more than anything can ever do. It brought us out of a really low view that people had of our state, and it's just the best. So I suggest go watch Oklahoma, the musical, for a reminder, and sing along with pride. And also, I'm telling you, I think everyone should stand up when that song is being played. That seemed like that tradition or whatever is kind of gone by the wayside. I think that needs to be re-invoked because it's worth it to stand up and clap when that song's playing, and it just really, it gets you right here. Get you right here. So, having said all that, I hope that you have enjoyed learning about our percussive instrument, the drum, our musical instrument, the fiddle, our state folk dance, the square dance, and lastly, our state song, Oklahoma. Oklahoma. Okay, I'm not doing it anymore. Anyway, thanks for watching today, guys. We are going to take next week off because it's spring break around here, and folks are going to be going here and there. And so we won't be here next week, but you can catch us back the following week. Let's see, today's like the 27th. And we will have a great trail talk planned for you then. And so until next time, happy trails.